No one saw it coming. Not like this. Jim Jones, the Dipset legend and harem veteran, now handcuffed, surrounded by flashing lights in a scene that felt unreal. But the sirens were real, the police scanners buzzing, and the video grainy raw undeniable, recorded the rapper in front of a dimly lit warehouse. In what authorities are describing as a confirmed narcotics exchange, within minutes, on social media, exploded, "Is this a sit-up? Was he framed? What the hell is going on?" The streets of Harlem were burning with speculation, while hip-hop enthusiasts worldwide raced to get a handle on it. But nothing rattled the internet so much as what came next. Camron, Jim's longtime friend, brother in arms, and Dipset co-founder, went a leap. His face said it all. Thus, silence, the tension in his jaw, the tightness in his eyes. It wasn't merely betrayal, it was heartbreak. And when he finally answered, that's when the actual drama commenced, because Camron did not defend him. He did not deny it. He uttered just one thing. Don't know the half. The internet hung. And now there are so many questions left behind. Was this years in the making, or the last crack in a brotherhood founded on loyalty? The whole story is grimmer than anyone could have dreamed. Under a grey overcast sky, the streets of Harlem seemed colder than normal as news travelled like a wildfire. Jim Jones had been arrested for his involvement in the drug deal. Initially, most people didn't want to believe it. How could the Dipset legend, the man who had come from the projects to international stardom, be embroiled in something so sordid? Everyone was anticipating the usual rumours, the catty online gossip. But this time there, the quiet, the tension in his jaw, the tightness in his eyes. It wasn't merely betrayal, it was heartbreak. And when he finally spoke, that's when the true drama started. Because Camron didn't stand up for him. He didn't dispute it. He uttered just one wordy. All don't know the half. The internet shut down. And now there are so many unanswered questions. Was this years in the making, or the last fracture in a brotherhood founded on loyalty? The real story's grayer than everyone knew. Under a grey, overcast sky, the streets of Harlem were chillier, more than the norm, as word spread like flames. Jim Jones had been busted in relation to the drug deal. Initially, most were unwilling to believe it. How could the Dipset legend, the guy who had risen from the projects to international stardom, be entangled in something so sordid? Everyone was anticipating the usual whispers, the small online talk, but this time there was no refusing it. Grainy video emerged within minutes, and the silence from Jim's closest inner circle only stoked the mania. The video was raw and unflinching. It started with a shaky, handheld shot likely taken by a nearby pedestrian or security guard's cell phone. Jim was standing next to a sleek black sub in the parking lot behind an abandoned warehouse, his figure silhouetted by a single street lamp. The man he was meeting had on a dark hoodie, face hidden. But the transaction was evident. A little package passed hand to hand onlookers. A siren was heard in the distance, getting closer by the second officers. Then poured onto the scene, their badges glimmering as they bellowed, "Orders!" The hooded man ran off into the night, leaving Jim having no choice but to lift his hands. He glared head-on into the camera, unflinching, as if challenging the world to condemn him. In a matter of seconds, the internet did what it does best: blew up. Social media sites were filled with reposts, reaction videos, and argumentative discussions. Is this actually happening? Someone tweeted. Did they set him up? Another Reddit user asked. Hip-hop blogs spun theories. Was this the power play by rival crews, an inside job brought about by the FI, or had Jim slipped back into bad habits? The rumors were limitless and unrelenting. The person everybody most wanted to hear from was Camron, Jim's longtime partner and friend. But Camron remained quiet for hours. His lack of words only made things worse. Was he embarrassed? Was he involved? Or was he really in the dark? Fans and critics alike begged for a statement. Then later that evening, Camron went live on his personal social page. Thousands listened. Scarcely a moment later, there was no flashy background, no hype beat, merely Camron sitting alone in a darkened room. Poem by his side, paced unreadable. The only noise was the far-off sirens echoing across the city, a reminder of the devastation tearing apart after what felt like an eternity. Camron ended the silence. "Y'all don't know the half," he murmured, voice low, and heavy remarks rained in. People urged him to speak more, to speak up, to defend his brother, to put things into perspective. But Camron just glared at the camera, his eyes flashing with anger, disappointment, and something more. Betrayal rumors immediately started to circulate about what he was saying. Some insiders murmured that Camron had attempted to warn Jim way back, months ago. Others said that Cam had proof of an even greater conspiracy. One thing was certain, audiences were hanging on every word, hoping for some clarity in a whirlwind of speculation. Meanwhile, local journalists camped out in front of the precinct, waiting for detectives to make a statement. By morning, Jim was said to be charged with distribution, an intent to distribute an unspecified controlled substance. Sources had said investigators had been tracking him for weeks. Surveillance photos, phone calls, and undercover informants had supposedly charted out a network that stretched from New York to Atlanta. The drugs used were reported to be top-of-the-range designer pills, not street narcotics like one would expect. Murmurs in police circles indicated these pills would cost thousands of dollars a dose, leading Jim Jones to having some with insulting labels, while others left flowers and scribbled notes, begging for his release. News vans occupied the sidewalk, their satellite dishes aimed passers by looked up, skyward halting, photographing the ruckus on their phones, adding yet another clip to the ever-mounting pile of content. Back online, an anonymous poster on the top forum claimed to have insider information. Jim's been in hot water for months. The post read, "Tour deals kept falling through, new music sales tanked, he got desperate. That's when he started trading favors." The term moving favors turned into a meme overnight that people wondered if it was a code for brokering relationships, trading illicit drugs for money. Pictures from past years emerged with Jim at exclusive parties with people who are now familiar to law enforcement officials. Each picture was picked apart, every minute detail examined. Then a leaked text message exchanged between Jim and a mystery contact. The conversation was short-lived, but explaining, "Did you send the contact requested all? Attended, handled." Jim responded, "Just remain silent. No background, no timestamp, merely the teaser evidence that something clandestine had been fermenting." That one message sent shockwaves across online entities. Conspiracy theorists theorized the government had its sights on high-profile rappers, framing them to make an example. Skeptics attributed the text as proof of a wrong committed. The line between reality and fiction blurred as fast as the video had disseminated. Jules Santana, another Dipset member, added to the mystery when he uploaded an old picture of himself with Jim and Camron and included the caption, "Loyalty cuts deep." The fans argued if it was a demonstration of solidarity or a veiled dig at Jim's perceived betrayal. The uncertainty only fueled the fire, with hashtags such as Team Jules and Featured Wearcam trending on all platforms. In the midst of digital pandemonium, a city nightclub hosted a vigil for Jim. Customers congregated under flashing neon lights, some dressed in Dipset tees, others sporting hoodies with Jim's face emblazoned on them. The vibe was half memorial, half protest. A muralist stood at an easel, painting a portrait of Jim behind bars, the words "free." My brother scrolled in big letters underneath. In tandem, fans sexcavated Jim's new lyrics for buried hints. Lines that had previously seemed harmless acquired new significance. "I've been traveling in darkness" now sounded like a confession. Each verse became grist for criticism. Vloggers and podcasters argued over timelines, charting out when the supposed deals could have taken place on the legal side. Sources close to the inquiry suggested a wider indictment hanging. Prosecutors were said to be constructing a case that went beyond Jim, potentially naming co-conspirators. And speaking of a multi-state scheme, whisperers indicated subpoenas have been served to cast members of Love and Hip, Hop Atlanta, and other reality shows, investigating for financial records and communication. The news that Atlanta ties were involved only added to the enigma. Could Jim's arrest be part of an operation to crack down on a broader network? And through it all, Camron's voice was still the wild card. After his first live, he went underground. From social media, fans wondered if he was negotiating in secret, or if hissolence indicated a breakup between him and Jim. Within hours, he uploaded a mysterious picture of two shattered chains on his story without caption. Speculations went into overdrive. Was he representing a break from Jim, or giving hints on what freedom within? Sources uncovered Rashida, longtime neighbor and friend, had faced Jim hours prior to his arrest. "I implored him to quit that lifestyle," she allegedly informed a confidant. He explained it was worth the risk. When reached, Rashida's agents made a statement claiming concern and also calling for fans not to jump to conclusions. The carefully crafted response did little to end rumors, as night again descended over Harlem. A second video leaked from a source unknown. This one was taken from within the warehouse, and it recorded Jim counting piles of money on a steel table before secretively pocketing something. The camera panned up to expose a familiar figure leaning against the wall. Camron, his face half shaded, half illuminated by a flickering bow. Jim looked at him and nodded, as if in quest of approval. Camron stepped forward, said something inaudible. Then he went away. Jim continued packing. Then the clip cut out. The revelation set shockwaves beyond Harlem. If indeed Camron had been there, even in disguise, questions arose about his role. Was he other than a passive observer? Was he complicit, or was he Theon, who set Jim up? The internet. Outrage reached boiling point. Every hip-hop journalist, every fan site, every commentator rushed to analyze the clip. And that's part one's end. The time the second video was released, and it turned everything around. This was no longer Jim Jones' tale, but Camron's as well. And the actual extent of the scandal was only just beginning to unravel beneath the pulsing ball and the shocked silence that followed the shock of the second video's impact spread to every radius of the hip-hop universe. By now, one official running count of leaks, rumors and hearsay had surpassed any stated position. Detectives in street clothes were appearing at Jim's mother's brownstone. Questioning paparazzi camped outside Camron's townhouse, waiting for a response. And the streets of Harlem, already volatile, seemed like a pressure cooker, ready to blow up within. Jim's circle panic was waiting in his manager, Tony 50/50. Martinez walked back and forth across it, the backstage space of a tiny club where Jim would be performing later that evening. Martinez's phone rang, non-stop, with calls from lawyers, promoters, and anxious castmates. He finally picked one voice tight. "Yes, I know we need a statement." "No, he's not speaking yet." "Yeah, I've told them all to stand down." He hung up and slumped into a chair. head in his hands. What the devil did he get himself into this time? Asked Isla, Jim's longtime stylist, hovering anxiously. She ran a hand through her braids. He said he was clean. He said he was out of that life. Martinez looked up, eyes bloodshot. There's no paper trails, no official indictment so far. But with that video of Cam there too, man, this is larger than we anticipated. In the meantime, Camron's own team struggled to get a handle on the story. A small group of aides and publicists convened in a small office above a record shop in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Of them, Jasmine came up with the most recent social media figures. On her laptop, his last live received 2 million views within 50 minutes. The comments are crazy. Is he snitching? Did he set up? Where is his loyalty? She scrolled, her eyes open wide. If we take a backseat on this, Cam's career goes up in flames. A more experienced publicist, Antonio, leaned forward. We can't spin it. People got a glimpse of him. There, we need context. We need proof of where he was prior to and subsequent to. Require a statement from Jim, and more critically from Cam himself. But Cam was nowhere to be seen. His phone went directly to voicemail. His social media accounts were quiet. Word went round that he checked himself into a private retreat upstate, a so-called creative recharge. Insiders gossiped that he was lying low, amassing the facts of perhaps questioning his own role. On the law enforcement front, sources did confirm an expanded inquiry. According to a source who wishes to remain anonymous within the narcotics division, the FI had been following a ring that utilized celebrity cover to traffic designer pills popularly known as nightmares. They operated quietly, employed encrypted messaging services, and used industry events for distribution. Jim's name didn't come up until undercover agents videotaped him. During several encounters in New York and Atlanta, the video of Jim passing off the package outside the warehouse was only the start. Detectives discovered surveillance records of him checking into our hotel suite in Atlanta, with 2 men subsequently arrested on drug charges. Phone records put him there at exactly 27. The lead agent said to reporters that this is not a celebrity witch hunt. We have concrete leads to indicate complicity at higher echelons back in Harlem. Rashida was awakened by a late-night phone call. She reached for the phone. It was Rashida's cousin Channel, who was employed in radio promotions. They're calling for you on all channels. They want your opinion. They want to know what you witnessed. Rashida rubbed her eyes, voice groggy. I'm not ready. Jim's like a brother to me. Pam's like family. I can't just out them like that people already did. Channel replied, that second video. It's on every morning show. They're claiming he knew about it, that you're covering up for him. Rashida slammed the phone down, heart pounding. She turned on the morning news and saw the headlines dip. Set drama, Camron's royalty in doubt. Following arrest of rapper. On screen, a banner flashed the photo of Jim handcuffed and scowling next to it. A granny still of Cam, leaning and speaking to Jim, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. Rashida debated. Her next step: remain silent and be complicit, or speak out and alienate 2 of her closest friends. She called men's, hoping for advice. His tone was relaxed, measured. Rashi listened, he said, voice level calm, though Rashida could feel the tension. This is greater than all of us. We've got to keep the family safe, but we also have to honor the truth. If Cam's in that video, he has an explanation to give. So what do every second conspiracy theorists on Reddit reconstructed timelines based on concert itineraries, hotel check-ins, and interview schedules. One of the trendiest strings of argumentation posited that Jim and Cam had utilized industry performances as fronts for encounters with the trafficking organization. Another asserted a coded line in a recent Jim Jones song. "I Move Silent Through the Night" was a confession of culpability. On Twitter, one of the users at Street Time wrote, "If Cam's loyalty was real, he'd stand up for Jim. This silence speaks volumes." Another user retorted, "He's not going to throw his brother under a bus," waiting for the truth within one of the city's most popular studios. Dave Swift was preparing his morning show. He cued audio bites, Jim's arrest declaration, Cam's "You'll Don't," Know the Half-Live Rashida's solemn declaration, and Choice Police press conference excerpts. He had a plan to set them against one another and asked the callers to take a side. "All I know," he said to his engineer, "is the ratings are going to rise from the edges of the internet to the corridors of justice." The saga was gathering pace. Part 2 concludes with Rashida, about to enter the spotlight to tell her story, balancing the burden of family, friendship and reputation against the press's ravenous glare. What she says next could alter everything again. Hash advanced onto the spontaneous stage, erected outside the precinct, stroking her forehead with shaking fingers. Before meeting the flashing bulbs and worried faces, a ring of reporters elbowed each other for position, microphones thrust forward like famished beasts. She cleared her throat, voice shaking. "I had been questioned whether I knew anything about any of this. The reply is no. Until I had seen it for myself." Jen Jones informed me. "He was recording new music, nothing else. I trusted him like..." Family murmurs had run through the crowd. One cameraman yelled out, "Are you covering for him?" Rashida's eyes flickered with pain. "I'm covering for the truth. If he's guilty, I'll be the first to say so." Later that day, inside a cramped conference room at Dipset Records, attorneys and advisors huddled over evidence packets on the table. Lay photos of the 2 leaked videos the security camera captured at the warehouse, the hotel suite, footage from Atlanta, and printouts of the incriminating text on the table. Jim's lead attorney, Marissa Flores, reclined and massaged her temples. "We must poke holes in the prosecution's timeline," she said. "If we are able to prove Jim was somewhere else at critical times, that video could be circumstantial." One of the investigators scanning phone notifications pointed out, "They'll attempt to divide the cases. Atlanta deals apart from the warehouse meet. We must demonstrate these points are linked." Nods came, but tension was palpable. One of the partners sneered, "We're in a public spectacle. The jury pool is the entire internet by night." Camron had re-emerged. He posted a short audio recording on his authentic account. "I've always defended my family. I'm collecting facts. Please be patient." It took only 30 seconds, but it reignited debate. Fans divided into 2 groups: those who perceived Cam's silence as solidarity, and those who interpreted it as complicity. Hashtags ping-ponged between Cam for clarity and Cam for Jones. Meanwhile, Men C stayed home, swiping through the hysteria. Heckled Rashida. She picked up, voice fatigued. "They're killing me apart," she admitted. "I'm trying to hold up for the truth, but they won't leave me." Meant to slow exhale. "You did what you needed to do, baby. Now let the attorneys work the rest of this out. Keep your head up." He stopped. "But watch your back. These individuals play dirty in the manner of damage control." Dipset's brand manager set up a meeting with Jim's core supporters, longtime devotees, street influencers, and neighborhood community leaders. The meeting was held at a storefront church, converted into an event space. On 125th, posters for Dipset albums plastered on walls. Over a tiny stage had room for only 1 chair for Jim, but no one knew if he would show up. Volunteers distributed bottled water and posters with support. If you believe in redemption, stamped in big letters, following an hour of angry argument, a guest speaker, a much respected elder in the community, grabs the mic. We all know that mistakes occur, but we also know that redemption exists. Let's mobilize behind someone who raised this city once before. Let's be kind. Applause erupted, but doubt existed in the air. A local cheeky blogger whispered into a live stream, "Microphone. Applause doesn't cover legal bills elsewhere." A tabloid publication reported that audiences had seen Camron on CCTV at the warehouse 2 nights prior to the arrest. Not only in response, Camron's publicist released a statement. Mr. Camron fully collaborated with law enforcement. Any implication otherwise is untrue. He will confront these falsehoods in due course. Despite the promise, internet gossip only became more vociferous, with prank accounts sharing mashups of Camron as a detective in trench coats mocking each mistake. During the public commotion, Jim's family gathered in a small apartment uptown. His mother, aunt, and 2 younger sisters huddled around a laptop with live coverage. Jim's mother, nostrils flaring, exclaimed, "They treat him like a criminal." His aunt sniffled, "He's always been troubled." "I worry," one sister, tears in her eyes, whispered, "I don't even want to watch anymore." They switched off the stream and remained in silence, the burden of the scandal weighing over their house in the meanwhile. Back in the courtroom, complex prosecutors were preparing their opening arguments for the preliminary hearing. Special Agent Robert Hill, crews going over his case file. "We have testimony under oath from the man in the hood who escaped that night, who named Jim. We have phone records that connect him to the Atlanta suspects. We have the text messages. This is more than a reasonable doubt." His partner added, "We'll push for a speedy indictment. Send a message that celebrities aren't above the law." Outside, protesters collected, some chanting justice for Jim, others shouting accountability. Now a group of local activists held signs reading, "Stop criminalizing success." Police in riot gear observed from a distance, tension simmering. It was a chaotic scene, with rival factions resolved to have their say amid it all. A young YouTuber named Tasha Lee navigated the crowd shooting for her channel. She cornered a random patron. "Do you think Jim is guilty?" The woman hesitated. "I don't know, but everyone's trying to use this for views. Nobody's discussing the real issue, the pills harming our youth. It doesn't matter who sold them. We lost track of the bigger issue." Tasha nodded, shifting the topic into an attack on social media hype. That evening, Jim Jones made his first public outing since the arrest. He emerged onto a low-rise platform at a community outreach event, surrounded by mentors and youth groups in simple black tee and jeans. He seemed drained. The crowd felt quiet. Hoorays! His hand in greeting. "Thank you all for coming. I'm not going to lie to you. This is hell, but I ain't here to plead innocence or guilt. I'm here to tell you I love you, and I'm fighting." A murmur of support ran through the room. A young fan screamed, "We got you, Uncle Jim." And others chanted a chorus of encouragement backstage. After the event, Jim encountered journalists. He breathed deeply and replied, "Yes, I was at that warehouse. Yes, I met that man. But what you don't know is why. I'll explain to the judge. Until then, I'm innocent." Cameras flashed. A reporter questioned the suspected designer pills. Jim's jaw clenched. "They label me with names I don't even know. Give me time. Give me an opportunity." As midnight drew near, the controversy had no signs of abating. A third video clip leaked. This one, a voice recording, allegedly from Jim to Cam, made days prior to the meeting. The audio muffled, but the message clear. "I received the package. Let me know when to relocate it." The clip cut off in mid-sentence now. Audiences were left wondering, was this evidence of conspiracy or another staged diversion in the virtual space? An underground show hosted by Sixth Theme agents broke down every facet, theorizing on wiretaps, informants, and a potential plea bargain. Callers exchanged conspiracy theories ranging from associations to foreign cardos to insider jobs by competitor music executives. Each new rumor formed a new tempest, and throughout it all, two names filled biggest Jim Jones and Camron. Their friendship, once touted as hip-hop royalty, now in jeopardy. Part 2 had brought surprises, betrayals, and changing allegiances. In Part 3, the distinctions between right and wrong get fuzzy, again as the battle for truth and fidelity raged on, and the world held its breath for the next explosive twist. The courtroom hummed with suspense as the preliminary hearing began. The following morning, the rows of chairs were occupied by spectators, reporters, and curious observers. Jim Jones sat at the defense table, surrounded by his lawyers, eyes fixed down across the aisle. The prosecutor recited charges, distribution, and intent to distribute a controlled substance across state lines, assisted and embedded by an accomplice known only as Tablack. The surveillance operation that netted Jim's arrest, weeks of wiretaps, undercover purchases, and overnight stakeouts. He cited the shaky warehouse video, the Atlanta hotel clip, and the leaked text messages. His voice was consistent, but every detail provoked gasp from the audience. He finished by saying that the evidence shows a pattern of transactions, suggesting a network of wider distribution. When crew sat down, murmurs filled the air. Jim's attorney, Flores, stood up to make her rebuttal. She spoke with measured composure, acknowledging some of the evidence, but challenging its applicability. The government's argument is built almost solely on rumor and circumstantial video. She contended there is no irrefutable evidence that the exchange of substance was illegal. We lack lab results, lacking chain of custody documents. My client is entitled to the presumption of innocence. Outside news, band hovered around the courthouse like vultures. Anchors reported live flashing headlines. Will Dipset dynasty collapse? Doe's loyalty weather scandal. Tweets under the hashtag Chuck Jones. Cheering trended. Across the country on social media, supporters divided into two factions, those calling for speedy justice and those condemning a rush to judgment. The story had escalated beyond the individual. It became a cultural moment concerning race, celebrity, and due process. Later that afternoon, in a dark conference room at Jim's law firm, Flores and her staff reviewed discovery documents buried between pages. Telephone records was a shock. An unredacted surveillance report revealing a major witness who had not yet been disclosed. The report named T.B. Black by his true name, Terrence Tony to Williams, and his cooperation agreement. Clearly, Williams had flipped. Testimony would soon be forthcoming that showed Jim and Camron together. On several occasions, this disclosure came as a shock. Flores, like a punch to the stomach. She rubbed her forehead and leaned back, slowly exhaling. "We have to call this into question," she said. "If the witness is being treated leniently, his credibility is compromised. We need to calendar a motion to exclude his testimony, or at least make the terms known." Her assistant nodded and started preparing the necessary papers. Meanwhile, Camron was eerily nowhere to be found. Out of the public eye, rumor abounded that he had been called to answer questions as a material witness, but his lawyers denied it, saying he was only helping out the investigation. A statement came out purportedly under his name. "I have cooperated fully with law enforcement. I look forward to telling my side when the time is right." but Voice's cyber friends wondered whether his silence was a ploy or a sign of greater involvement. Back on the streets, a protest camp for Jim had increased into a makeshift memorial. Supporters arrived with tent speakers and boomboxes playing old-school Dipset hits. They claimed that Jim was being scapegoated. Other real kingpins walked free. In the meantime, others accused them of romanticizing a drug culture that devastated their communities. At one point, there was a small fight between warring camps, requiring police to testify within the courthouse. Unexpectedly, a witness was summoned by the defense Layla, Jim's stylist. She hesitantly took the stand, wearing an elegant black dress. Under oath, she swore that she saw Jim at his studio on the night of the warehouse meeting, working on designs for his next album. Backed by receipts and time-stamped photographs, her account contradicted the prosecution timeline for suggesting that footage could have been doctored or misstated. She spoke steadily her allegiance to Jim clear, winning a mixture of applause and skeptical murmurs. Says Wire gave way. Flores stood up again to close the case. For the defense, she urged the judge to consider the inconsistencies and the dubious credibility of T. Black. She drew a portrait of a man fighting to restore his career. Not masterminding a criminal operation, she invoked the statute of doubt. If there is any reasonable doubt, it must be in the defendant's favor. The judge intervened. Looking over his notes, he fixed a date for a formal arraignment and reminded both parties that evidence was still being processed. He urged caution, pointing out the issue had considerable community effect and calling for media restraint. When he recessed, a heavy silence filled the air. Reporters rushed the defense table, yelling questions. Jim gave a curt nod but said nothing. Flores raised a hand, invoking her client's right to remain silent. That night, Rashida spent the evening with Menses and a small group of close friends at her apartment. The atmosphere was serious. They viewed videos of the hearing on a television set in the office. Whenever the videos of Jim raising his hands in the parking lot feature Rashida, she winced. She turned to Men VCs. I won't know how he's going to get through this. He placed a hand on her shoulder. We're here for him. We'll battle this outside the courthouse. Camron's publicist revealed that Cam was to appear in public the following day with a special interview on one of the big network's promotional posters. Hinted that Cam would set things straight and give the inside story that fans and critics alike wondered if he would use the opportunity to defend Jim, deflect blame, or drop bombshells of fresh new information.